The stars above the Rillan border system twinkled coldly, indifferent to the chaos erupting beneath their gaze. The Xarnethi Black Fangs had arrived. In the void outside Rylan Prime, sleek and deadly warships converged with ruthless precision. The United Earth Coalition's scattered outposts were no match for the Imperium's elite strike force. Jorvac, the Black Fang's commander, watched the holographic battle map flicker as his ship sliced through the weak Earth defenses like a predator among prey. "Focus on their command hub," Jorvac ordered in his guttural tongue, eyes narrowing. "They will break without leadership." On board the flagship Kareth, screens lit up with feeds from fighter squadrons and assault shuttles. The Coalition vessels fired back with desperate bursts, but their outdated railguns barely tickled the thick armor of the Xarnethi cruisers. Jorvac sneered as a human frigate exploded in a flare of orange light. "Pathetic," he muttered. "Primitive species. They do not deserve to survive." Across the system, human forces scrambled. Captain Lena Ortiz, commanding the Sentinel patrol craft, ducked as a plasma blast tore through the ship's port side. "We're taking heavy fire," she shouted to her crew. "Hold position. Protect the civilian transports." The Xarnethi's tactic was brutal but effective. Overwhelm orbital defenses, then deploy ground troops to crush resistance. Ortiz's ship shuddered violently as alarms blared. Her eyes darted to the hologram. A Black Fang squadron was already dropping pods toward the planet's surface. "Evacuation is mandatory," she said, voice calm but urgent. "Send all non-combatants to the evacuation ships. We hold as long as we can." Back aboard the Kareth, Jorvac's confidence swelled. His squadron was invincible. The humans were scattered and disorganized. The battle was nearly over. But then, a flicker on one sensor panel caught the attention of a junior officer. "Commander, we are detecting a small vessel attempting to escape the system at high velocity. It's a Coalition scout ship, name designation Hawkeye." Jorvac's lips curled into a cruel smile. "Let it go. A lone scout cannot change the outcome." But as the Hawkeye slipped through the last defense ring, its captain, Lieutenant Marcus Dean, was sending a frantic encrypted distress beacon back to Terra. The ship's hull was compromised, systems failing, but the message went through. "Mayday to Terra." Dean's voice crackled over comms, barely audible. "Xarnethi forces overwhelming. Outposts lost. Send help. Hellmarch deployment. Imminent." Before the Hawkeye could escape fully, an enemy frigate tore into its engines, ripping a jagged hole in the aft hull. Dean gave one last, defiant glare at the stars, then activated the self-destruct. The explosion was brilliant and final, a beacon in the darkness. Far away on Earth, the message sparked an immediate reaction. The war was no longer a border skirmish. It was a call to arms, and humanity's deadliest force was about to answer. The vast command chamber aboard Terra's orbital flagship, Aegis, was bathed in the cool glow of tactical displays. Silence hung thick, broken only by the quiet hum of systems and the steady footsteps of officers moving with practiced urgency. The encrypted distress beacon from Lieutenant Marcus Dean's doomed Hawkeye had just been decrypted, and it left no room for doubt. Admiral Elena Vos stood at the center of the room, her piercing eyes scanning the flickering hologram of the Rillan system. The countless red blips marking Xarnethi warships drew a hard line across the star charts, a stark reminder that humanity's fragile borders were under siege. "High Command," she said with calm authority, "this is not a routine incursion. The Black Fangs have moved far beyond mere scouting. Their intent is occupation and destruction." Around her, junior officers exchanged worried glances. The Xarnethi Imperium was notorious for brutal, unrelenting warfare. Once they committed, few survived their wrath. But Admiral Vos was different. Where others saw despair, she saw a challenge. "We activate Protocol Iron Dawn," she declared, voice steady and resolute. "Prepare War Group 14. Hellmarch deploys immediately." The room erupted in coordinated movement. Orders flew across comms. Crews prepared ships that few outside Terra had ever witnessed. Hellmarch was a secret forged in the crucible of humanity's darkest hours, a war group designed to fight and win when all seemed lost. The Aegis's slipspace drive hummed as its massive hull powered up. Within hours, the fleet's sleek, angular warships slid silently into their launch bays, ready for deployment. Genetic enhancements in the Marine Corps promised superhuman reflexes, while AI-assisted fighter squadrons promised precision strikes far beyond human capability. Every element of Hellmarch was honed for one purpose: annihilation of threats before they could become legends. Admiral Vos turned to her second-in-command, Commander Kai Voss, a man known for unflinching loyalty and tactical brilliance. "Commander," she said, "our adversaries believe they can burn our outposts with impunity. Let's show them why they're wrong." Kai nodded. "Hellmarch stands ready to rip their triumph apart." While the fleet prepared, scientists and engineers worked furiously on new weapon systems destined for the battlefield. Adaptive AI decoys that could mimic entire fleets, electromagnetic pulse mines capable of crippling starships, and bioengineered drones designed to dissolve enemy hulls at the molecular level. Elsewhere, special forces trained for covert insertion, masters of silent boarding actions who could cripple enemy vessels from within. Every detail of the coming war was scrutinized, every weakness exploited. As the last of the crew boarded their vessels, Admiral Vos walked to the observation deck, gazing out at the pale blue jewel of Earth. She clenched her fists, the weight of command heavy but steady. "They think we're broken," she whispered. "They think we're weak. But Terra's war group is coming, and we will burn brighter than any star." Slipspace coordinates locked. The warships accelerated into the unknown. The stars shifted and shimmered as Hellmarch vanished from Terra's orbit, hurtling toward Rillen and the waiting Xarnethi. In the cold silence of deep space, a storm was gathering, and humanity was its fiercest herald. The Xarnethi Black Fangs had settled into their new prize, the Rillen system, with the arrogance of conquerors. Commander Jorvac paced the bridge of his flagship, Kareth, his scales shimmering under the cold red lighting. Victory was already tasting sweet. Planet-side outposts were falling, civilians fleeing in terror, and the enemy's forces were scattered and demoralized. "Begin occupation protocols," Jorvac ordered, his voice a low growl that resonated through the bridge speakers. "Set up orbital command centers. Tear down their communications and crush any resistance." Pilots and officers moved swiftly, confident in their superiority. Yet beneath the bravado, unease rippled through some ranks. Reports came in: patrols losing contact, strange sensor anomalies near the outer belts, and most puzzling, a sudden silence from the systems that had once been alive with human chatter. "Commander," a young officer hesitated, "there is an absence of response from multiple ground installations. Communications blacked out." Jorvac snapped his gaze toward the officer, displeased. "Nonsense. These humans are disorganized and broken. No fleet would dare interfere this soon. Their panic must be causing temporary failures." But the silence gnawed at the edges of his certainty. A nagging suspicion crept in, one he swiftly buried beneath layers of pride and experience. Meanwhile, on the planet's surface, small pockets of human resistance were not only surviving, they were regrouping. Lieutenant Mira Tal, a former Marine squad leader, crouched among the rubble of a shattered communications tower, her breath ragged and weapons ready. Her squad had barely escaped the initial assault, but the fight was far from over. "Intel says something big is coming," she murmured, eyes scanning the horizon. "They underestimated us. They always do." Her words echoed a truth every human knew. The enemy's triumph was a fragile illusion. Back in space, Xarnethi pilots grew restless. Squadron leader Veshkarn called his wing together for a briefing. "We expected stragglers and scattered resistance," he admitted grimly, "but no counterattack yet. It's unnerving." "Patience," Jorvac ordered when the report reached him. "We finished securing the planet first. Then we root out any survivors. Unbeknownst to him, hidden sensors planted by human scouts detected every move. Hellmarch's flagship had already slipped into the outer system, cloaked by advanced stealth fields. Their presence was a ghost in the void. In the quiet before the storm, the tension was palpable. Every Xarnethi believed victory was assured, every human prepared for war like never before. And as the stars watched silently, a new force gathered beyond sight, silent, deadly, and unstoppable. The void suddenly cracked open like a thunderclap. No warning, no signals, just the sudden shudder of space-time bending as Hellmarch's warships spilled out of slip space, emerging like predators in the heart of the Xarnethi-occupied Rillan system. Jorvak's bridge exploded with alarms. Red lights flashed. Sensors screamed. Slip space breach detected. Multiple contacts. Too close to our fleet. A frantic officer yelled. The Kareth lurched as a massive railgun salvo slammed into its starboard side, ripping a blazing gouge through the hull. Explosions erupted across the enemy formation. The Xarnethi pilots scrambled to react, but the humans were already striking with deadly precision. Admiral Elena Vos stood on the bridge of Hellmarch, calm and unyielding, eyes locked on the tactical grid. Deploy stealth drones. Jam their sensors. Target command nodes first, she ordered. Her voice was a razor cutting through the chaos. Drones slipped silently from the human fleet. Tiny, agile machines armed with electronic warfare pods. Within moments, the Xarnethi's sensor arrays began to flicker and die. Communications went dark. Panic rippled through the Black Fangs. Shields are failing, cried a pilot as a squadron flagship erupted into fire, its bridge obliterated in a single precision strike. Jorvak growled in frustration, issuing orders in rapid succession. Form defensive perimeter. Protect the command ship at all costs. But the humans were everywhere. Fighters darted through debris fields like lethal wasps, AI-guided missiles homing in on critical systems. Orbital bombardments rained down with surgical accuracy, tearing through the enemy's forward bases. Below, in the atmosphere of Rylan Prime, drop pods pierced the clouds like meteors. Inside, Hellmarch's elite Marines in black exosuits prepared for insertion. Their helmets glowed with heads-up displays tracking every enemy position. Lieutenant Mira Tal led her squad through the drop zone. No mercy, she whispered. Hit hard. Hit fast. They breached the enemy's forward operating bases with ruthless efficiency, sabotage teams planting EMP charges to cripple the Xarnethi's ground defenses. Back in space, the battle tilted rapidly. Jorvak's flagship was surrounded, its weapon systems crippled by continuous drone strikes. His bridge crew fought to maintain control, but the odds were crushing. A shadow detached itself from the smoke and fire. A single commando clad in black armor and stealth tech. Silent as death, she boarded the Kareth through an emergency airlock. Chaos erupted on the enemy bridge as systems flickered and died. The Xarnethi were caught in a nightmare they hadn't anticipated. Hellmarch has arrived, Admiral Vos said, her voice cold steel over the comms channel broadcast across the shattered fleet. And with that, the tide of war shifted forever. The battlefield had transformed into a maelstrom of fire and smoke, but Admiral Vos' Hellmarch fleet moved with ruthless precision. The shattered Xarnethi formation tried to regroup, but each attempt was met with a calculated, crushing response. Jorvak's flagship, crippled but not yet destroyed, drifted like a wounded beast. Frantic orders echoed through the remaining ships, desperate to form a protective shield around their fallen commander. But Hellmarch's warships anticipated every move, their eye-assisted fighters slicing through the disarray with lethal efficiency. Target the stragglers. No mercy. Vos commanded from her flagship's command deck, eyes sharp as battle reports streamed in. Meanwhile, orbital drop pods rained down onto Rillan Prime's scarred surface. Lieutenant Mira Tal's black-armored squad was among the first to land, boots pounding into broken earth beneath a toxic sky streaked with smoke. The ground war was about to begin. Tal's squad moved swiftly, their enhanced reflexes and neural implants turning them into shadows in the rubble. The Xarnethi had fortified their positions, but their defenses were no match for the Hellmarch Marines' tactics. Explosions rocked the battlefield as EMP charges detonated, disabling enemy turrets and communication arrays. Biological drones released from specialized canisters crawled into enemy bunkers, dissolving hull plating and sending waves of panic through the Xarnethi troops. Tal paused, scanning the horizon. Enemy reinforcements were rallying, but the humans fought like a relentless storm, each squad member a deadly instrument of war. Back in orbit, the battle continued with unrelenting ferocity. Xarnethi fighters, their discipline tested for the first time, attempted desperate counterattacks. But Hellmarch's AI-managed fighter wings predicted their maneuvers with terrifying accuracy, intercepting missiles and tearing through attack vectors with plasma pulses. Jorvak's frustration mounted. "They fight like demons," he snarled, clutching the armrest of his command chair as his flagship shuddered from a nearby explosion. His officers exchanged worried glances. The initial triumph now felt like a death trap. On the planet's surface, Tal's squad pushed deeper into enemy-held territory, securing key relay stations that would cripple the Xarnethi's ability to coordinate defenses. "Hold the line here," Tal ordered, voice calm despite the storm raging around her. "Prepare for counterattack." The Xarnethi response came swift and brutal. Heavy artillery tore into their positions, and waves of enemy infantry charged with reckless fury. But Tal's Marines met them head-on, their genetic enhancements and superior training turning the tide in brutal close combat. Amid the chaos, Tal caught sight of an approaching enemy commander, large, menacing, and armed with a shock staff. With a sharp command, she and her squad moved to intercept, the firefight turning into a fierce melee. Above, space roared with gunfire and destruction. The first whispers of a crumbling empire were audible in the shattered communications. Hellmarch was not just reclaiming a system, it was igniting a war no one would forget. The corridors of the Kareth were deathly silent as the black armored commando moved with lethal precision. Every step was calculated, every breath controlled. This was no ordinary boarding party. It was Hellmarch's elite, trained for silent kills and complete annihilation from within. The Xarnethi flagship, once a symbol of domination, was now a fortress under siege from within. Systems flickered erratically, weapons offline, communications dead. Jorgak's bridge crew scrambled, trying to locate the source of the chaos. Multiple breaches detected in Sectors 7 and 9. A panicked officer reported. "Boarding teams, how did they?" Before he could finish, the lights dimmed, replaced by the cold blue glow of emergency systems. The commando, codenamed Spectre, had already disabled the main power conduit. A whispered series of clicks and clatters echoed through the hull. Mines planted in critical junctions, ready to detonate. In the cramped hallways, Spectre moved like a shadow, dispatching patrols with silenced plasma pistols. The Xarnethi had no idea their mighty flagship was being dismantled from the inside out. Meanwhile, back on Relin Prime, Lieutenant Mira Tal's squad fought through waves of furious Xarnethi soldiers. The battle was brutal, every inch won in blood and fire, but their training and enhancements kept them a step ahead. Tal paused momentarily, her visor's heads-up display alerting her to new incoming biodrones, the latest terror engineered by Hellmarch's science corps. Released into the air, these tiny, insect-like machines sought out enemy armor and infrastructure, dissolving it with corrosive enzymes in minutes. "Deploy countermeasures," a Xarnethi officer screamed, but the biodrones were already swarming. Back aboard the crippled Kareth, Spectre reached the command deck. Jorvak, wounded but defiant, faced her with snarling fury. His shock staff crackled with lethal energy, eyes blazing with rage. "You will die here," he hissed. Spectre raised her pulse rifle, voice cold and unwavering. "You lost the war the moment you attacked Terra's borders." The fight was savage, a brutal clash of strength and skill amid the flickering emergency lights. Sparks flew as weapons collided, but Spectre's enhanced reflexes and combat implants gave her the edge. With a final, precise strike, Jorvac crumpled, defeated. Elsewhere, Hellmarch's fleet unleashed electromagnetic traps, floating mines that pulsed with energy designed to disable entire sections of Sarnathi ships. Entire squadrons found themselves drifting powerless, easy prey for the relentless human fighters. Admiral Vos monitored the destruction from her command chair, a rare, small smile playing on her lips. "This is the hell they never expected," she murmured. "And it's only just beginning." The Kareth drifted lifelessly in the void, its hull scared and smoking, a fallen titan in a sea of stars. Commander Jorvac, once the feared leader of the Black Fangs, lay unconscious in the medical bay, his fate uncertain. Without his commanding presence, the remaining Sarnathi forces were fractured, struggling to maintain cohesion in the face of a relentless human assault. On the bridge of Hellmarch's flagship, Admiral Alina Vos watched the disarray with cold satisfaction. Tactical displays flickered, showing enemy ships scattering in every direction, some retreating, others attempting last-ditch attacks born of desperation rather than strategy. "Enemy fleet integrity at 32% and falling," reported Commander Kai Vos. "The Black Fangs are breaking apart." Vos nodded. "Cut off their escape routes. No prisoners." Fighters streamed out like deadly swarms, intercepting fleeing vessels with precision fire. Boarding parties seized crippled ships, taking Sarnathi prisoners for intelligence and leverage. The psychological impact was immediate. Fear rippled through enemy ranks like wildfire. Back on Rylan Prime, Lieutenant Mira Tal's squad advanced steadily, securing strategic positions and capturing vital communication arrays. With the enemy command chain fractured, resistance crumbled from within. Tal stood atop a ruined observation tower, scanning the horizon where the last Sarnathi forces regrouped for a futile counterattack. "They're finished," she said quietly to her squad. Suddenly, a transmission crackled through her comms. Jorvac's voice, weak but defiant, breaking the silence. "This is Commander Jorvac. We acknowledge defeat. We request terms." The words echoed across the battlefield like a death knell. No one expected mercy, but the admission marked the end of an era. Admiral Vos' reply was terse and unyielding. "You will be held accountable for your crimes against humanity. The Imperium's ambitions in this sector end now." As Jorvac was transferred to a heavily guarded cell aboard Hellmarch, the tide of the war shifted irrevocably. News of the Black Fang's defeat spread quickly throughout neighboring systems, shaking the confidence of the Sarnathi Imperium. Terra's victory was not just tactical, it was symbolic. The once feared Black Fangs had been shattered, and humanity had announced its arrival as a dominant power. But even in defeat, the Imperium's cold eyes watched, plotting their return. Because wars that start with fire rarely end quietly. The Rylan system was silent now. Orbital stations once ablaze with battle glowed dim under the cold light of distant suns. The Black Fang's warships, shattered and drifting wrecks, lay scattered like fallen beasts across the void. Humanity's Hellmarch had claimed a brutal but decisive victory. Admiral Alina Vos stood on the observation deck of the Hellmarch, gazing out at the war-torn system. Relief rippled through the command crew, but Vos knew better than to celebrate too soon. "Secure all prisoners and begin system-wide reconstruction," she ordered. "We owe the people of Rylan their future." Lieutenant Mira Tal, weary but unbowed, joined her. "We won, Admiral. But I can feel it. This won't be the last time they come." Vos nodded. "The Imperium will not forget this defeat. They'll regroup. They always do." In the depths of the Hellmarch's break, Commander Jorvac sat in cold restraints, eyes burning with hatred and grudging respect. "You humans fight with a ferocity we did not expect," he snarled during a brief interrogation. Admiral Vos met his gaze evenly. "It's not just ferocity, Commander. It's the unbreakable will to protect what's ours. Terra won't back down." As the war machines of Hellmarch began restoring order, The survivors of the Rillan system slowly emerged from shelters, eyes wide with cautious hope. The message was clear. Humanity had arrived not just as defenders, but as liberators. Yet, across the galactic void, dark tendrils of the Tarnathi Imperium began to stir. Intelligence reports hinted at secret fleets mobilizing beyond known space, whispering of vengeance and shadowed wars yet to come. Admiral Voss received a secure transmission from High Command. "The Imperium's rage will burn hotter," the voice warned. "Prepare Hellmarch for a longer war." She looked back out at the stars, her expression hardening. Let them come. Because humanity had been forged in the crucible of survival, tempered by sacrifice and unyielding hope. They were ready. And this was only the beginning.